we could get on here. We've had a bunch of changes recently in the last, I don't know, 60 days to our SkySlope files, to our required document checklists, and we wanted to have just kind of a Q&A session, go over that checklist with you and see if there's any questions we can answer before they become an issue, questions we can answer before your SkySlope file closes and you can't get paid. Just trying to make everything go as smoothly as possible and kind of, from our perspective, inform you as to why these new documents are required. So Kelly, I'll give you a few seconds here. If you could pull it up so we can at least talk about what's on that checklist. I mean, most of it, I'd say 99% of it is all stuff that everybody knows they need for a file. There's a few certain documents that we've added recently after talking with our legal team to basically cover ourselves as a brokerage and cover you guys as agents, so that we are doing everything that we can to stay in compliance and to stay, as John likes to say, risk management. So it's basically for everybody's protection. We understand that it can seem, like we're requiring stuff that you don't understand why, or there's no reason for it. We totally get that. And that's kind of one of the reasons why we wanted to have this today, is just to answer those questions, explain it in a way that you can present it to your clients so that they understand why it's being signed, and we're not just asking for a random form for no reason. So that's kind of why we're doing that today. So it looks like we got that up. So this was updated. I mean, we just updated this in April, and this is already outdated. Kelly, if you could scroll down just a little bit. The one that the AAR COVID addendum is no longer required. So we've made that change already, and we need to re-update this again. Yeah. Now, I will say that is a very, very much a moving target. I mean, it was required because the state was shut down, and there's no guarantee that does not happen again. And we will essentially update everybody as that comes, because we might, as a brokerage, move to make it required again. That's a very fluid situation, and I don't think anybody has the answer to that. So the new stuff we have. So I think we added market conditions advisory as a required doc. It was always, if applicable, but we added it as required. And the reason we did is just to make sure that everybody understands that, we're not seeing into the future. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. So we just want to make sure everybody's covered, that they understand that this is a transaction. The market can go up and down, and everybody understands that that's, just the way life is. So, and to absolve the broker from that. The biggest one, I would say, and the biggest one we're getting questions about, and, John, if you want to speak in on this one, the affiliated business disclosure. My home group has added recently many power partners, and we've added many power partners for agent benefit. I mean, we've added a bunch of different service providers, a bunch of different lender partners, a bunch of different title partners that we think do a great job. And the reason why this is required is it's actually a federal law. It's RESPA. We have to disclose that we have a business relationship with these organizations. And you might say, well, guys, we're not using any of those. My clients aren't using any of those service providers. What you have to remember is that your clients are our clients. They're a client of the brokerage. So by that estimation, they are using those services because we are. So just want to make sure that there's a clear distinction on that. I mean, literally your clients are a client of the broker. So, and you're acting through the broker to represent them. So that's why it's required. If you have any questions on that, Kelly, I don't know if you have the affiliated business disclosure. I could pull it up too if you want to look at it. But it's pretty simple. I mean, it's a pretty simple document. It's just listing who they are, what the fees are, and that's pretty much it. I mean, and if they have any questions, I mean, you can just let them know that it's a federal law for us as a brokerage to get that signed. It's RESPA compliance. So how we're operating.
Andrew, can I chime in?
Absolutely.
This is federal law. This is the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, which was written in 1974. It's always been a requirement. And the most important thing to learn about it is it's been the potential downside has been jacked up by TRID, Tiller RESPA Integrated Disclosure, Tiller's Truth in Lending Act, RESPA. When they did TRID, they really jacked up the consequences. And this is not just protecting the brokerage. This is also protecting all the people we do business with. Most of our ancillary services have some sort of arrangement.
Sounds like we lost John a little bit. Give it a second to come back on.
So here we go. I was buffering. Anyway, here's the best way. There's absolutely no downside for having people sign it when they're not doing a transaction with these people because the company's involved, and there's certainly a downside to not. I mean, there's just no reason not to. And the easiest thing to do with this form is simply pack it in when you send your documents for signature. Just include this and the market conditions advisory and put them in your template and make them automatic so you don't have to think about it. If you have a client that has a problem with it, call the broker hotline and we will walk you through how to handle a client that has a problem with it. That really doesn't come up, but it is. We're talking federal law here. We're talking facing the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the United States Attorney General for these violations. That's just not a place anybody ever wants to go.
Agreed. Does anybody have any questions on that while we're on this call, while we're on the subject of the affiliated business disclosure? No? Well, I mean, like John said, it's always been required, and shame on us for not having it required prior to this. And you know, we're trying to make sure everything and everybody, our clients, your clients, and the people we do business with are protected by having this as a requirement. So that's the reason behind it. There's, you know, we don't like making people sign documents, and there certainly is a reason for it. It's not for no reason. Kelly, can you scroll down a little bit? Thank you. Go ahead,
Really
John.
quick, ABAs from other companies, like say there's a HomeSmart ABA, our clients don't need to sign those, and their clients don't need to sign ours. We can't push that on other companies. Again, there's no downside, but if people say they require us, one of our clients to sign one of their forms, this is an in-house disclosure between my home group and our clients and our power partners. I get it, but if HomeSmart sends you one, it's physically impossible to over-disclose, really stupid to under-disclose, better pursue the impossible to live with the consequences of the stupid. And it's a harmless to over-disclose, but man, are there consequences if you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect, John. Perfect. So before I move off, or before we move off that, is everybody good with that? Everybody understand, you know, the why of it? We don't want to just say you do this and because you have to, because we said so. I mean, we really do want to give you the why of why we do things around here. So hopefully what I said and what JD said covered that for you, and we'll make that an easy conversation for your clients. Kelly, I can't see. I mean, is there anybody on the chat asking questions? I can't see if there is or not.
Can you hear me? Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, somebody just asked me if I can send the form out. So no questions for you yet.
Okay, and just so you know, guys, I mean, this form is a living, breathing document. It changes as our relationships change. So it will be updated as frequently as we bring on new partners. So always it'll be living in SkySlope. It'll be living in the back office, and we could certainly send that out to you. But just keep in mind that it is not a download one time and you're done. And we'll always update you. But it does change as, you know, business relationships do change as well. So can we go? Yeah, there you go. Thank you. So the newest, I think the last one that was a requirement that was added as an actual requirement is wire fraud. And I think we all can understand the reason why we did that. I mean, wire fraud has become rampant in the past few years. It doesn't make any sense for us to not have that disclosure, just to at least try to protect ourselves. I know, John, like that wire fraud disclosure is only as good as, you know, how good we are as agents in letting people know that. But it's just, I mean, I don't know, like you said, there's no downside to disclosing this.
Well, here's what I want to say about this, because unfortunately, I've gotten a phone call, and it's a very depressing day for a broker, and especially for an agent, when one of our clients gets ripped off. It's happening. It's a real deal, and unfortunately, the first time it happened, I saw a signed disclosure, our wire fraud warning. They signed it. They signed a wire fraud warning from Fidelity Title. They signed 2 warnings and still fell for it from a lender. So this goes far beyond just having them sign this thing. This is one of those things where you need to look your client in the eyes and say, never wire money from an email until you talk to me. We get the title company on the phone and we preempt them, because these fake letters are coming out with title company information, with phone numbers. People answer. These people are smart as hell. And unfortunately, they're stealing from real estate clients. So this is almost look your client in the eye and say, don't you dare ever. And because I guarantee you, I had this phone call. This is an agent, great guy. He was heartbroken. And it wasn't because he lost his commission. It's because his client lost $60,000. There have been clients to other companies that have had $1 million ripped off. This is something you got to take seriously, because one day it will be you. And that's not a phone call Andrew or I once had from you to find out we had clients ripped off again. It's not a joke. It's insidious. I'd like to take all these people out behind the barn and shoot them, but we don't know where they're at. They're all over the planet, and it is for real.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Kelly, did Carl ask a question? It looked like Carl asked a question on the chat.
Yep, I'm looking now. Sorry. Are you syncing SkySlope to these requirements? We like to use that as a checklist, and often it's not there.
Yes, it is being synced as a requirement. Yep.
Good. And we'll get this updated.
A big shout out to Andrew. Andrew, after us just playing nasty ping pong with SkySlope for years, he's finally got them under control. And he said jump, and they say how high. I don't know if they met him and saw how big he is. I don't care how he did it, but it's a much better relationship. And everybody give Andrew a thumbs up for that.
Thanks, JD. Yeah, and Carl, I mean, like John said, I mean, for years they would just tell us no. So it's been a large effort to get them to do what we need to do, and to sync all the office docs, and to sync all of the checklists, and to make everything applicable. So if there's a checklist, if you see that it's not required as it pertains to this list right here outside of the COVID addendum, please just shoot me an email with the information that I would need to double check it, is what office you are in, so that I can check and see why that has not synced properly. Because as of today, it should all be synced properly. I've sent them the checklist. I've sent them all the offices, and every single office should have been updated. So if it's not the case, you need to let me know. But you got to remember, we have like 70 some offices, teams, and et cetera that we have in SkySlope. So it's a big task. So if something got missed, you know, I certainly can understand how that happened, but just let me know and I'll get it fixed. So that's, you know, that's what we're working on right now. And behind the scenes, kind of, while everybody's not in the office, we've been going through a major overhaul of systems and checklists and how SkySlope functions and what we need it to do. So it's been, you know, a month or two of solid work with them. So we'll get it figured out, and we'll get it right. So if there's a problem, just email me and I'll take care of it. Does anybody have any questions on this checklist that you didn't know was required, didn't wonder why it's required? I think everything else on here has always been required. You know, and everything is, if applicable, is I think is understandable. It's just if the specific property has an HOA, has lead-based paint, you know, pre-1978, anything like that. I'm seeing some chats pop up, Kelly, on your screen.
Yep, I just did. The final walkthrough is currently showing as required for new construction in SkySlope. Is it now required? It wasn't in the past.
As far as I know, the final walkthrough has been required. I mean, I guess it could be your specific office that you're in. Maybe it wasn't, but as far as like a general MHG, it was. So If it's new, I apologize, but it should have been the entire time, at least some sign off from the buyer that they walk through the property and are accepting it prior to moving in. So
virtually all builders have their own form of final walkthrough. It's a punch list, it's a check off, it's an
we just ask for a copy of it. Yeah.
It's not called final walkthrough necessarily, but it's the buyer accepting the property as ready to move in. Any form will do. It says walkthrough, but we don't. Obviously, the AR walkthrough does not apply to Meritage Homes. Trust me, they have their own. So I've had people ask that question. Final walkthrough is just a generic term for that thing that says we accept the property in its current condition.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. Last thing was Carl said he missed the affiliated business disclosure. Can we rewrite it? I'm not sure what he means by rewrite it. Do you want me to show it? Carl, talk to me.
What I meant by that is there's two documents with two separate signature lines. All of it's good stuff. Why can't it be consolidated into one document is my question.
Because one is RESPA compliance and one is not. But both of them need to be signed. And if there's two docs, it's because there's one for partners in all of Arizona and one for partners specifically in Prescott. So there'd be two different ones. There's Tucson, Phoenix, and then there's one for rest of the state. So there's two separate ones. But the 3 pages, we've gone through this with legal counsel. The 3 pages, we have to have the 3 pages specifically because half of it is RESPA and half of it is disclosing the rest of the partners. So
we have it here and here, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So that one, Kelly, the one that you're hovering over, that's for Prescott.
Yep.
Northern Arizona, Prescott. That's only for if you're working out of those offices.
So sorry to be pedantic, but since you're on there, scroll over the one that I'm supposed to do. Maybe I'm using the wrong one. And I saw 2 separate forms. Did I do it wrong? Maybe I did.
It's just 3 pages.
So, okay, I understand. So, and I'll shut up after this, but just explain to me, tell me again why that can't be one master document. I don't get it. Why do I have to have, I have to put the property in twice, and who am I making it out to when it says to? Who's that supposed to go to?
Your client.
Okay. All right. I'll do it. I'll obey. Of course I will. I just want to make sure
that first page, Carl, is specifically mortgage, home warranty, fairway. The second page is we have a business relationship with Easy Title, so we have to disclose the fees and we have to get a signature specifically to that one. So that's why we tried to combine it into 2 documents. So it looks like, 2 documents into one. So you're not signing 2 separate documents, but we have to get an individual signature on that specific one for RESPA.
All right. So 2 addresses, 2 titles, 2 properties, 2 signatures on the same doc. Okay, will do. I challenge that, but I will obey.
Hey, and it's great to see your face, Carl. Damn, I miss you.
I miss you too, brother. I want a big hug.
Air hugs.
But not on Zoom.
And Carl, just so you know, that question was asked to our legal counsel, and we're doing it the way they told us to do it. So you're not the only one who thought that question. Anybody else have any other questions?
So do I have your permission, Andrew, to give my friend across the hall rations of crap whenever I see him about that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please do.
Yeah.
Andrew, somebody wrote that the COVID addendum is not necessary anymore, and that is true. We just need to update this doc. So our fault for pulling this up in this class without the update. Correct?
Yeah. And I don't know if they jumped on late, but I addressed that at the beginning, that we understand that, the things move quickly and it's not required as of right now, but it may be required next week. So, just stay posted on that. We don't know what's going on with state shutdowns. It's obviously a moving target. So we required it, unrequired it. We reserve the right to require it again.
And it hasn't gone away. There may be clients that want the protections it offer. It's still a tool we can use to protect our clients, what's using line 18 or 24. So keep it, keep it in your quiver. It's an arrow you may need, and some clients may want that comfort and protection of an agreement in advance. So it's not a non-document. It's just not a you got to do it or we're going to come after you document.
Right. And there are, I have a cross sale right now going on with, there are still brokerages that do require it. So I'm, and they asked me to get something in writing if my client would not sign it. So, it's like John said, it's still a thing. So, we're going to have to just reserve, we reserve the right to make it required again. And we understand that this thing needs to get updated, but, we just haven't got to it. Sorry.
Yep. And guys, I know you addressed this in the past, but what happens when a seller won't sign the affiliated disclosure?
If they physically won't sign it, like literally won't sign it, we need email confirmation that it was at least delivered and disclosed. And as long as we have a record that it was disclosed, since it is a disclosure, we'd prefer a signature, but if that's all we can get, then that's all we can get.
And back on the COVID again, I say it's like having a gun. Better to have it and not need it than Lord knows you don't want to need it and not have it. So far, we've been lucky. We have not had anyone get COVID from showing property. It has happened in Arizona on multiple occasions. Judy Lowe told us a horrible story, but so it's still a good document, and it's still a good idea. It's just not required.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we just want. If you don't have it, we're not going to hold your check. But we'd prefer if you want to present it, even that's even better. But it's still a document that's a good idea to use if you can. Anybody have any other questions for us?
Nope, we're caught up.
Okay. Well, that's really, as far as required docs, those are the only changes that I would say that are actual changes to the requirement. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory, I believe, unless someone has any questions about a specific form or a specific item on this list. I think we can open it up to general questions, not necessarily tied to documents, but just broker questions in general.
Well, and I want to go over some of the reasons, the main things that get rejected and why. That was another subject for today.
Yeah,
let me go through a quick list, and trust me, this will get us some questions.
Okay. Okay.
And I want everyone to know what we do. We review every document. We are required by Arizona law and the commissioner to require all documents within 10 days. We require you to turn them in within 5. And if you turn them in late, you're going to get a nasty gram says we need a letter, not to us, but to the Department of Real Estate. And the reason we do this is because we get audited. They come and make sure we did what we're supposed to do. There's some forms that people seem to really have a bad habit of getting wrong. And let me explain what happens when you get something wrong. We reject it. And that takes more of our time, which takes away time from us being able to get stuff processed and done. So when you guys have closings, you get paid in a timely manner. It also, in many cases, means you don't actually have a deal. There are some initial signatures and documents that if you screw up, they are completely invalid. Now, here's my quick list of documents we reject and why, and then we'll talk about it. In the purchase contract, for some reason, line 18, which says whether the earnest money is deposited, obviously that's typically title company, not broker. That is one of the top of the list things. We will require you to get that checked, and here's the problem. If it's not done with the contract, here's a reason to get it right, because it's a pain in your rump when you don't, because you have to go back, not only check that box, but have it initialed by all parties, because it's an after execution alteration. After execution alterations require initials and acknowledgement by all parties. And thank God, you used to require initials and dates. You try and find a place to put initials and dates on line 18, but we will need initials, and that's not fun for you. That's not fun for the other agent. It's extra work for everybody. The same thing with line 37, which is the addenda. Line 37, people don't check for lead-based paint. They also don't check line 181 or 182 and get the wrong one. 181 is before 78, lead paint required. 182 is after 78 not. But if you check line 37, you have to check line 181 and vice versa. And again, those will require initials of all parties, and that's just a pain. The other ones that are common are line 297, home warranty, just sign it off yes or no thing. Line 434, the broker hold harmless. Again, what a horrible thing for us to have to reject, and you'd have to go back and get broker hold harmless initialed late in the game. And it annoys people, but it's something we have to do because, again, we have to pass an audit. Now, the other things we look for, obviously your initials and dates. If your date's late, past the time, we're gonna require to write a letter. But it's also another thing that we check is your math on page 1. Lines 13, 12, and 11 have to add up to 10 unless it's a VA loan. If earnest money is not part of the down payment, it must be specifically stated applied towards closing costs. And that correcting your bad math is usually not because you're a dummy. It's because you simply were adding numbers and skipped one, or sometimes people invert numbers, they add an extra 0. Check your math, because you have bad math, you do not have an enforceable purchase contract. And someone could literally go, this deal's dead, and use that against you. Believe me, I've helped people do that. That's a mistake you simply cannot make. The other big one is on the lead-based paint disclosure is not getting the initials of the agents where they need to be, co-op and listing agent, and line 32, 34 have a checkbox. That's the buyer's part of it. Rarely do people get the seller part wrong. They seem to miss those checkboxes on 32, 34. And let's talk really quickly about lead-based paint. Watch Andrew nod his head. Brokers hate this thing. Agents hate this thing. But it is federal. It's not even real estate form. It's a federal Environmental Protection Agency disclosure document. We're talking about the EPA. They're not just a big dog. They're a cabinet level post. So if it's environmental compliance, we have to do it. And let me tell you about a broker in California that had 50 of them not done right. He got nailed $11,000 per file. Do the math. That's a lot of money. You don't want that to happen to us. We don't want that to happen to you. So please take your lead-based paint seriously and make sure you check your boxes. On the other form that is absolutely the #1 contract form I reject, and see if Andrew agrees, or he may have his own list and his own top of the list, is unsigned pre-qualification forms or non-AAR pre-quals. So if you use a Wells Fargo pre-qual, you need to go to Section 8 and say line 69 is hereby deleted and shall not apply. Seller accepts pre-qual from Wells Fargo. Or get a pre-qual, because line 69 says, and I will quote, an Arizona Association of Realtors pre-qualification form is attached and incorporated herein by reference. That makes it page 12 of the contract. That makes it a disclosure document, and all disclosure documents have to be signed by those making the disclosure. The buyer's making the disclosure on the pre-qual, not the lender. The lender obviously fills it out and helps, but this is a buyer form. Without it, you potentially have the equivalent of an unsigned contract. Again, how bad would you feel if some seller wheeled out of a deal because your buyer didn't sign the pre-qual? And you'd be surprised how common that is. On the agency disclosure, again, checking the wrong boxes, not checking the right boxes. Remember, the agency disclosure is not just a disclosure in election. Because you're a fiduciary, one of your duties is obedience. This is an instruction. These are instructions to you. So if you check 34, represent buyer's broker, and you don't check 36, you're being told you cannot show my home group or your own listings. We got pretty good market share some places. There's a good chance you're going to show us. They're literally telling you not to show your own listings. So you need to make sure, buyer, you check 34 and 36. Seller, you must check 41 and 42 for the same reason. Because if you don't check 42, no My Home Group agent can show your listing. Make sure you get those right. I reject those things all day long because they have the wrong boxes checked. And then the last one is, let's talk about the ER real quick. #1 things that we met is initials on line 69 allowing a lockbox. Now, as we get into August through October, we reject a lot of dates. Reminder, this time of year is coming. When things expire next year, make sure they expire next year, not earlier this year. We get a lot of October 2020 expiring in March of 2020. And unless you manage to overcome temporal laws of physics and to travel back in time, that really doesn't work. And it's a simple mistake. It's a clerical mistake, but you don't have a listing. You're not entitled to a commission. And if the seller calls you on it, they don't have to pay you. And if you offer to co-broke, you still have to pay the other guy. So watch your dates. The other one is simply agents not signing. Agents not signing the listing. ARS 322151.02 subsection A is very clear. An employment agreement to be valid must have a beginning and ending date, term set forth in writing, and signature of all parties. If you don't sign your listing, you don't have a listing. All right, Andrew, you got anything to throw in there?
No, John, you covered it all, but we do have some questions. So let's get some questions.
Good.
Can you read them to us?
Oh, you want me to do this?
Yeah,
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Back to COVID. Someone said, my understanding of the COVID addendum is to present it as an advisory and have our client initial at the top. Then if COVID comes into play, we negotiate the rest of the document. Is that correct?
No. The COVID it's an addendum. In order for it to be valid, it has to be signed by all parties. It's not a disclosure at this point.
Okay.
It's literally an addendum.
It's two things. It's a disclosure up top. Hey, there's a problem out there, but it's a preemptive. It's not reactive. It's a proactive preemptive. You fill out the bottom, say, in the event something happens, this is, somebody gets it. This is how we want to handle it. Right. So it's not something to be done when someone gets sick. It's something to be done in case someone gets sick. And it's a form we hope we never apply, because that means we have clients that are dealing with COVID.
Well, I mean, the last thing you ever want to do is try to go back and renegotiate something when you could have had it signed at the beginning and not had to think about it. So you don't ever want to have to go back to the table when, the seller or buyer, whoever's asking for it, doesn't have any leverage to ask for it anymore. So don't ever want to do that.
Like I say, practice proactive, preemptive, prepared problem prevention.
John loves that.
Exactly.
John, can you put everything you've said in writing for us? No? Okay.
Okay, Nancy, I saw asked, you're right, COVID is not required. It's not a required document. So it's not that it's not necessary. It's just, we're just not going to require it. We're not going to hold your check if it's not in the file. So I think that's a pretty important distinction. It's a very necessary form right now. We're just not going to hold your check if it's not there.
Okay. Carl said, regarding lines 173 and 175, not necessary to check if built after 78, correct?
Correct.
No, no checkbox. The only time you check that is if you're initialing line 181, which means it's built before 78. If you initial line 182, all that stuff is just left blank because it's not applicable. Okay.
And then regarding section 1C, is it necessary to restate math on a counteroffer?
It's a good idea. One thing, when you counter the price, you're literally changing all the numbers on page one. Very few people go back and reset those numbers based on the new price. But it's a very good idea, because what you want is a contract where no one can ever misinterpret things. No one can ever say this is different than that. And you want all your documents to be written in such a way that if you got dragged into court, you'd stand up in front of the judge and go, "Oh, heck yeah, Your Honor, I nailed it."
Yeah, that's great. That's a good question. Carl, I'm going back to your Arizona Landlord Tenant Act question. I don't think either John or I are the right person for that. That would be, you would have to talk to an attorney on what has changed through COVID. I don't think we want to get into that here. We're not lawyers. I'm not a lawyer for sure. So I wouldn't answer that question, unfortunately.
I will say one thing about landlord tenant COVID. They're updating. I understand they're updating what they're doing on that July 15th. So whatever you know before, make sure you're keeping up with it, because something is going to change July 15th, whether the current situation continues or not. That's literally all I know about it. But that's a big date, so watch that, because it's obviously an issue with evictions and all that stuff.
Well, the one last question back to the math is, so the recalculation appears on page 1, not the addendum?
It would be on the counteroffer, because like John said, you're literally modifying a signed document. So I would just do it on the counteroffer. Line 10 to be this, line 11 to be this, line 12 is this, line 13 is this.
Okay,
or if it gets accepted and I reject it, hold on a second, let me finish. If it gets accepted, not countered, and nobody catches it and I reject it, then you would do that on an addendum.
Valerie, so the LSU, the only one that is required signature by the buyer is the first one, because that's a requirement of the contract. The one due on day 10. Hopefully that answered the question. But yes, only the first one. Okay. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, anything we've covered? I know we've covered a lot and we've covered it fast. So it's kind of our world that we live in though, right? Everything changes. Everything that we're talking about today could change tomorrow. So that's, that's just the way things are right now.
Hey, I have a real quick.
Welcome to real estate. You can go to bed a genius tonight, wake up a moron tomorrow.
And I saw someone mentioned how often you're going to do this, and someone said monthly is what it is. That way we can have a stump the broker question. Like we can think about it all month. If we can find one that stumps you guys, then we all drink a shot of tequila or something. I mean, that sounds like fun.
Carl, that's
you tried 3 times, Carl. I've nailed off. You've tried stuffing me 3 times. So far, you ain't got me yet. Bring it on, brother.
Carl, I always have in my back pocket, hey, talk to an attorney. So
we did get one more question.
Yeah.
About the LSU. You are referring to buyer signature only required on pre-qual, not on first LSU?
First LSU, the very first LSU, the one that's required by the contract by day 10, we do need the buyer to sign that one because it is a contractual requirement. Any subsequent ones upon request, we don't necessarily need that, but just the first one.
Okay.
And since we're on that subject of request, it's not subject to cure. So if you want additional LSUs mandated, you'll need to counter that. The first one you can cure if they don't deliver, and you should if it's not complete, line 1 through 40 and 32 to 35, check yes. But after that, it's only a request. So if you really want to be able to force LSUs, you need to write in a counter that one would be delivered every 10 days, every 7 after the first one. Then it would require a signature, then it would be curable because it would be a document referencing the contract as a requirement, not a request.
Correct. Correct. Let's see. Anybody? I'm following through the chat here. It looks like we got them all. Anybody else have anything pressing? Anything they're curious about? Anything we haven't covered that you wanted covered?
I do have a question. Can I ask you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Faster to type. I am in a contract with somebody that was a cash buyer, and then we negotiated it because it was contingent on their sale, and then they put in there that the buyers could possibly get a $200,000 loan. Do I need to do anything with getting requirements or something on that? It's my own home. It's owner agent, but do I need to get something from the buyers that they are qualified now, or how? It's kind of sticky. It just happened yesterday.
Have you done an addendum?
Pardon?
Is the contract already signed and executed? Everything's already all done and.
Yes. So it was the contingency almost fell through, and then we negotiated and we extended the date, and then the selling agent just popped in there. Buyers have the option of a $200,000 loan. And so, I mean, that doesn't bother me as long as it's a 30-day close. So if they can do it, that's great. But can that slow it up?
Unless they were they said they're getting a loan, that's just a disclosure which is required by, per section 5C and 2K. But if they didn't write in there that the loan is contingent and your seller didn't sign making it contingent, it's a cash deal. And all you care is they get the cash. And if they can't get the cash from the loan, that's not a contingent. They would still forfeit their earnest money and not be able to close. So it's, as long as that contingency's not in there, it's just a disclosure and you're fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Are you reading that, Andrew?
Yeah. Liability wise, if a seller catches COVID from an open house or showing, what do we need to do to cover our butts and MHG? Well,
Talk to our lawyer.
yeah. Talk to a lawyer. Yeah. I mean, because, right.
Clearly, it must be disclosed to everybody that's been in the property.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, if a seller accepts a showing right now, they're accepting I guess the risk of someone coming in their home. So what happens if they catch it? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's been adjudicated yet. So I don't know that there's anything that we could do to cover our butt.
3 years from now, when the lawsuits have happened, we'll be able to answer that question, because this is literally uncharted territory for everyone on planet Earth, including lawyers. This is all new, and that's why we should take it extra seriously and be a little more paranoid than we are about most things, because people are dying.
I mean, there are AAR. I mean, if you're on the listing side, you can make sure you can post on there that they need to follow the AAR COVID guidelines to show a property. If you're on the buyer side, you can make sure that they sign that disclosure provided by AAR that they have not had any symptoms, and you can provide that to the seller in advance of your showing. But other than that, I mean, I don't even know if that would stand up in court, because like John said, nothing's happened yet. So we have no idea. Yeah, I would do it, but I don't know if that's an actual level of protection or not. I mean, I don't think we'll know that for a little while anyway. That's the best I can tell you. Is just go ahead, John.
This was in the newsletter yesterday. The most important thing to understand is, per the code of ethics, per law.
John's buffering a little bit.
Yeah, he's out of town.
Yeah. Speaking of the newsletter, while we're waiting for John to rebuffer, did everybody receive
that? Can you
What?
For the property, for how to access it, you must follow the seller's rules, no matter how inconvenient. And there's some sellers that are being really picky, but we got to abide by that. It's their house, their rules. Standard of Practice 116, Article 1 of the code states we must do that.
Right. Exactly. And if they require masks and gloves and booties, then and that's what they say that to access their property, we got to do it. That's just the way it is.
If they require people to wear plastic bags, garbage bags, cancel the listing.
So a question came in to me back to COVID. So I think we've touched this multiple times, but I'm going to read it. On checkbox other in line 38 of the purchase contract, I've included the COVID addendum as part of the contract. Is that an appropriate place? If the other party refuses to sign it, a cure notice would be required, right?
Correct. If you literally make it part of the contract, we have to.
What, John?
If it's not signed, you don't have a valid contract. If it's not signed, you don't have a valid contract if it's referenced as an addendum in the contract.
Exactly.
It would literally make the contract invalid. That's a big deal.
Yep. So just keep that in mind. Anytime you add addendum or checkbox and write in something on other, you've literally made that a part of the contract. So no matter what it is, we have to have both parties sign it. We have to, because you've made it it's been made part of the contract, and without it, the contract could be potentially voided in litigation. So just keep that in mind. Anything you add has to be signed by both parties.
Okay, we're called up for chat.
All right. Well, I mean, anybody else have anything to go over? Any questions? I mean, we'd love to do this more often. Obviously, it's a little bit easier having it through Zoom, but maybe if and when the office ever opens up fully again, we can do it live. But who knows if that's when or if that's going to happen. But we'd love to keep doing these kind of things. I hope you found it informative, and at least can walk away knowing why we're requiring certain things and what when we. Like John said, what we do is we literally review every file. So if you don't know, there's 3 of us to review files, and we closed 1,500 deals last here. So times that by the amount of paperwork associated with each file, and you'll kind of get an idea of how much work goes into the back end system of this. And, you know, I mean, we try our very best, you know, even with John staying up till 1 a.m, you know, approving files like a madman. I mean, it's just, we have a lot of files, we have a lot of agents, we're a highly productive brokerage. So, you know, it makes it so much easier for us if we don't have to reject files. I mean, honestly, we would prefer not to reject files because it takes longer for us to write why we're rejecting it than just approving it. So hopefully that gives you a little insight into what we do every day. And, you know, on top of the broker line calls, on top of everything else, we're still daily basis approving files. So it's a requirement. And like John said, we get audited. I've sat through an ADRE audit. It is not fun. It is not fun. You never, ever, ever want to be in an ADRE audit. It's just not a good time. It took 12 hours. So, and they literally tell you. Go ahead, John.
Andrew, I'm going to throw something here. We're good. When it comes to reviewing and catching things, we're good. Ain't much gets, you know, you're going to slip a lot of shots past us when we're playing goalie. So don't try. You know, we've had people upload a document with the same mistake 5 times. We're not going to, just because you keep reloading it, we're not going to approve it because you're tired of reloading it. We're just going to keep rejecting. So assume you will, you're going to get caught. Like I said, we're pretty good at this. We do it high speed, but we don't miss a lot.
No, we sure don't.
Hey, Andrew, do you want to go back to what you started to say about the newsletter?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody received that newsletter because we do put broker tips of the day. We do put announcements in that. We put the announcement of the new checklist in there. We put, you know, very important announcements go in the newsletter. So we just want to make sure that everybody's receiving it. And if you're not, you know, we obviously need to fix our systems, but it could be going into spam. But we try to keep our roster up to date and email addresses up to date. So if you change your email from when you first joined, we'd love to see a new email address so we can update it. If you're not receiving it, check your spam folder because it went out to all agents. And, you know, like we said, that's our number one way we're going to communicate right now between the newsletter and Facebook, because we just have, I mean, it's a good problem to have. We have a lot of agents. It's hard to get everybody on the same page, but we can only mass blast things so many times before it starts getting filtered in spam. So if you haven't seen that, like, please let us know and check your email address. Make sure we have the most up-to-date email address for you so that you can receive our weekly newsletter. Is it weekly, Kelly, or is it bi-weekly?
It is. And actually, I want people to know who it's coming from. I save them all in a file. So it's called the Weekly Wrap, and it comes out weekly on Wednesdays. So make sure you find that. And it comes from, which one? My Agent Services. So the name is My Agent Services. It's called the Weekly Wrap. And then we also have important broker announcements come out from My Broker Support. So these are new names you're not recognizing. You guys used to get everything from me, and we've, you know, now that we're so big as a company, Kelly at my home group is not really professional as we keep growing into other states. So we've given ourselves, you know, department names like My Broker Support, My Agent Services, and My Careers. So make sure you're looking for those. They come out weekly. The broker announcements are a little bit more sporadic as things need to get out there, but please keep your eyes open. It's not spam. And then also in the Facebook Mastermind, like Andrew said, definitely, I know it gets loud in there, and I know I say a lot about classes and stuff, but definitely look for these broker tips and announcements.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be as proactive as we can, and I mean, we certainly understand that things get swept up in the spam filter, so we try to announce it in both places. But that would be the number one place to check, would be the Weekly Wrap. If something's changed, and if something major has changed, that's a brokerage or a broker level requirement, a new contract is out, a new document's out, an update to the contract is out, we will email you directly from the broker department. So just make sure, like I said, make sure that we have the most current email address for you, because that's moving forward. That's how we're going to communicate some of these things. So if you missed it, then we'll try to update your email, or check your spam filter to make sure that we're approved to come through.
And if you haven't done this already, hold on a second. If you haven't done this already, everyone should subscribe to the Department of Real Estate's bulletins. They're sending them out like every 3 days now. There are so many moving parts. If you haven't subscribed to that before, it'll keep you up with what's going on with GLO, with the commissioner, and it's been a great source. And I get one on almost every day, and something new is going on. So with all the moving parts, now that's definitely something you want to subscribe to, as well as AAR's newsletter. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, the kind of the email that it comes from, although it's titled My Agent Services, that email is actually careers@agentsuccessformula.com.
Right.
So if your spam filter is catching something that says agentsuccessformula.com, you want to allow those through.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
Excellent. Hey, Kelly, do we have a class Monday? What is it?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Do we have a class Monday, and what is it?
Oh, yes, hang on. Today, Binzer is contract law, Monday at 1.
That's a good one.
Yes.
It's the most important class I teach, because everybody gets the Binzer wrong. Everybody, okay, except for you guys. No one in this meeting gets it wrong. Everyone else gets it wrong.
Yep, agreed.
Sign me up.
All right. Anybody else have any questions before we wrap this? I thought this was pretty productive, and thank you, JD, for going through all of the items that we reject so often.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, everybody. Be well, would you? Be safe, be smart, be well. Have a great 4th of July.
Yeah, enjoy, everybody.
Thank you, guys.